Rick and Morty is now a live-action show, and here's how it's gonna go down.
We've been going non-stop, Rick. It's not healthy. These are my teenage years.
Okay, I'm just joshing with you. But today on ScreenRant, we are pretending that the impossible is happening.
Tell you what, I'm just gonna go ahead and avoid you for the rest of the day.
As you've no doubt already commented, yes, there has technically been a live-action Rick and Morty. That version cast everyone's favorite Rick actor, Back to the Future's very own Christopher Lloyd, alongside Jaden Martell as Morty. This is honestly a pretty stellar interpretation, but there is one issue.
Yes, it is different than we all thought.
Christopher Lloyd is 86 years old, and much in the way that Michael J. Fox wouldn't work for Morty because he's too old, we also feel like Lloyd is just too old to play Rick Sanchez. So, if Hollywood greenlit a live-action show this year, who would they cast? One of the seemingly dozens of people very humorously joking about Chris Pratt, very funny by the way, suggested Tom Holland for Morty, as did Mick Bimster, who suggested The Rock as Rick. Which, you know what? Screw it. I want to see what that looks like.
And that guy is the red grin grumble to pretending he knows what's going on.
Michael Cera came up quite a bit, but honestly, I'm pretty sold on Jaden Martell. He can stay in the role of Morty. For Rick, Hamburglar, if that is your real name, suggested that Gene Wilder would have been amazing, to which I completely agree. R.I.P. to the very best Willy Wonka. If he was still alive and in his 60s or 70s, we'd have a great Rick Sanchez.
Would you like to see? Yeah.
Brandon Prater 4613 suggested Jim Carrey and Zachary Gordon, the latter of whom you might remember from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He's definitely aged out of Morty, but I could see Jim Carrey working for Rick. Just, slap some old age makeup on him a la Sonic 3 and let the master do his work in mimicking the classic inflection and burping Rick is so well known for.
I was not in control of that situation at all.
Okay, so we have our Rick and Morty. How about the supporting cast? Mr. Poopy Butthole is easy. Daniel Day-Lewis. Otherwise, don't even bother including the character. Jerry is also easy. You just get Chris Parnell. He already voices Jerry, and he's a fitting match in real life. That said, he is getting up there in age, so let's hurry the make-believe live-action adaptation up and get him in there.
The trick to incepting is making people think they came up with the idea.
Bird Person could also just be Dan Harmon, but if he'd rather not do it, then I'd like to see John Hamm in the role. I just think he'd look neat. Hamm would also make for a great Principal Gene Vagina. I really just wanted to say vagina on ScreenRant. I'm going to be honest with you here.
What's wrong with that? That doesn't sound like a problem to me.
Now for Summer, I'm thinking Bella Thorne with a dye job. Then for Beth, this is a tough one, but over to a Reddit thread I read, I like Elizabeth Banks in the role.
And that's the way the news goes.
How would the plot go? It's a science fiction show, so we're going to need some damn science fiction. Like with Family Guy, the best idea to incorporate the live-action element would be to have Rick and Morty travel to a universe where everything is live-action. And hey, if there can be a world of talking pizza slices that eat chairs, there can be a reality world, alright?
Oh my god, Morty, what did you do? You killed the Simpsons, Morty!
Rick and Morty would then wind up back in this live-action reality thanks to a broken portal gun or whatever. It's maybe a bit hack, but we could use this as a moment for the two characters to realize they're just cartoons made up by actual human beings, prompting both of them to experiment with actual pain and what it's like to have realistic skin. Weird stuff you think about while you're high. Their live-action adventure would take the form of a literal cosmic horror that leads us toward existential questions like the pain of existence that Mr. Meeseeks encounter when not given a task, or the sheer terror of any number of times that entire realities have been proven inconsequential. Man, this is a depressing show.
No takers?
The final moments of the adventure would have to see Rick and Morty escape back to their reality, with the twist being that they take along one of the live-action characters by accident. Live-action Jerry, for example, could be brought back and driven insane by the inverse of Rick and Morty's experience, and we as the audience would be able to enjoy a Jerry coming to terms with the truth that cartoons are their own separate reality. He could then make a leap and say that nothing has any meaning, and he could, rip out his own eyes and juggle them, or whatever.
Which is no longer my signature move. Later days, amigo.
Of course, the actual movie or episode would have to go through the Rick and Morty writer's room, which is a way higher pay grade than some ScreenRant schlub, so I'm not going to pretend I have a brilliant plot inside of me. That said, I think the best option for this live-action version is for it to be a single episode of the show, with Rick and Morty stuck in that aforementioned live-action universe. And yeah, Dan Harmon can figure out the rest. Now, how would the live-action differ from the animated? Thanks to Rick and Morty's outlandish multiverse concepts, like, for example, a world where hamsters live in our butts, there's really not much that would have to change for Rick and Morty to make the leap to live action. Sure, some of the gags would be prohibitively expensive, or in the case of Ants My Eyes Johnson, possibly too horrifying to show with real actors in the roles. But the characters themselves are easy enough to cast. Like with The Simpsons and Family Guy, we are dealing with iconic voices and character designs, but with the positive reception given to Adult Swim's live-action casting for Rick and Morty, I think that it would have an easier time making the transition from its cartoon origins. It also helps that, also like Family Guy, there's a built-in multiversal conceit that makes live-action perfectly natural within the world it's built.
Where'd you get that? I borrowed it from Rick and Morty.
To conclude, we have to ask ourselves, what makes Rick and Morty work so well? For one thing, the examination of the meaninglessness of existence. As this video no doubt has already assured you, there is some question as to whether life has any meaning.
What is my purpose?
You pass butter.
Oh my god.
Anyway, there's also a totally legit version of this idea where Rick and Morty remain cartoons in our dimension. And yeah, that's it. Rick and Morty, live action. Woo! Wubba dubba dub dub. Like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Tell me why Chris Pratt should play Scooby-Doo, or comment why Ryan George is better than me. Come, do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Woo! I hate my job.